markets are continuing the rally. The question is, how far will it go? So let's take a look and jump in. The Dow was up 0.5%, S&P up about 0.5%, and NASDAQ up about 0.5%, building on the winning streak for the last few days. We'll take a look at the charts here in a minute. And a couple of things I'm looking at with the moving averages that are kind of interesting. And on another note, it's out today that Michael Burry sold all of his positions except for one that he took in Geo. So he dumped all of his previous stock holdings and adds Geo, which is a prison and mental health real estate investment trust that he bought shares in. That was up about 15-20%. We'll take a look at that chart here in a second as well. Interesting play there. On other news, Ethereum ICO era whale address transfers 145,000 ETH weeks before the ETH merge. Speculation is that they're going to dump ahead of the merge or possibly stake and become a validator. So we'll just have to wait and see. They broke it up into multiple wallets, transferring about 5,000 to 10,000 ETH at a time. And if they did dump all of it on the market, it wouldn't be a significant amount, about $250 million worth of selling, which obviously could affect the price a little bit, but it's not enough to really bring the price down. And, there's two sides to that coin. Some people think that the ETH merge will be a sell the news or sell the event, buy the news, sell the event, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event where the price will drop once the merge happens. Some people think the merge will be successful, others don't. Some people think it's going to really destroy the ETH mining industry, and they are all coming together to create a fork and continue on with proof of work. So we'll see how all this goes, how it unfolds, what it really looks like. And this is technology, emerging technology. So there's going to be bugs, glitches, hiccups, things like that. So it's just going to be interesting to watch to see ultimately what happens to price and what happens with the success of the move to proof of stake. And if Ethereum maintains any kind of competitive advantage once it switches over versus Solana, Avalanche, other protocols that compete. So be interesting to watch. On other news, we have the Fed is opening the pathway for crypto banks to tap the central banking system. So the central bank will create a 3-tiered system for evaluating whether a financial institution should have access. So this is interesting. U.S. Federal Reserve Monday is publishing its final guidance for novel financial institutions to add master accounts, something these firms need to participate in the global payment system. So this could be really interesting for crypto. With the BlackRock news, with the Fed and regulation coming, crypto is becoming more mainstream, and which is going to lead to more broad scale adoption, which is ultimately great for the space and for the value of these certain assets within the space. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the charts. And Bitcoin is continuing its trend of consolidation, just kind of consolidating and slowly rising in that upward rising wedge, rising channel, however you want to look at it. You can draw this out a couple of different ways, and these trend lines are kind of being heavily respected by the prices. The price continues to rise, pretty interesting. Here's the lower end of that range right there, and have had broad support at the bottom of the range, have had strong resistance at the top of the range. So price could continue along this way for a while. The last time was in this consolidation, and that was about 100-something days, I believe. So let's take a look at that. That was about 102 days that price consolidated, kind of ranged. Obviously, this was the Do Kwon buying area here. So price was extremely volatile. So this breakdown here, this range so far has only been 56 days. So 103 days puts you out to about September. So that's in the time frame of the next CPI print, the next Fed meeting. So price could continue to consolidate, kind of range, upward along this trend line, maybe revisit the bottom of the trend line, kind of bounce around in here until we see what the next inflation report is going to look like, what the Fed is going to potentially do. So let's take a look at the moving averages here and how we are coming along there. Price is rejecting at the 100-day moving average right now, which it's found resistance, pretty much broke out one time above, but last time the price rejected, popped up just a little bit above and rejected. That was the last major downtrend, the last time the price tested that 100-day moving average. So we'll have to see how that kind of shakes out and whether price can find support on the 100-day, which is your next step. Price has found support above the 50-day, Now, if it can find support above the 100-day, it could continue on. But again, we're still in very uncertain times with inflation, recession fears, and the markets are still in a bear market trend. And you can see in the last cycle, 2017, 2018, price did get above the 100, rejected off of it a couple of times as it moved its way down, and rejected off the 200 a couple of times. Price is not anywhere near the 200 right now. It would have to trend up a good ways for a while to intersect with that 200-day moving average, which it could possibly do, but that would be a long way off. And again, it was a full year the last time from 2018 before the market really found the bottom. So this could range along for a while and ultimately drift off towards the end of the year and kind of find its bottom. And this all started back in November. So ideally, the next 3 or 4 months, the markets could potentially, in that 1 year time frame, find a bottom, depending on what happens with economic cycles as we move forward, with inflation, recession, Fed moves, things like that. This is all, this rally that we've been experiencing for the last couple of weeks is all because the Fed was interpreted to have pivoted, although they did not. They've come out and said complete the opposite. They will be out again this week, and the meeting in Jackson Hole. So we're going to hear more hawkish talk from the Fed, trying to talk the markets down. They're not happy with the reaction from the markets, so they're going to continue onward. Right now, the consensus is 50 basis points on the next hike, potential for 75. The Fed is kind of leaning towards 75, but until we get the next CPI print, we will not know what they're going to do because they are data dependent at this point. So price has found support on the Bitcoin, that is on the weekly, has found support on the 200-week moving average. We have the 50 and the 100 getting ready to cross. The last time that happened, the price dropped, bottomed, and dropped about, or it was about 8% higher, 8 to 10% higher than the bottom. That was the second bottom, and then it moved on to start a higher consolidation and working its way up. And my thesis has always been the market was on its way up pre-pandemic back in January, February of 2020. That's when the market was going to continue to move up to new all-time highs until the pandemic hit. So I think that was the ultimate bottom where the price was going to trend up a little bit, and then the pandemic started coming into play here and kind of knock price down a little bit. So let's see if the price were to move up from the ultimate bottom of about 10%, what would that be? That would be about 19,900 or 20,000. So price could potentially, if we're going to repeat that cycle, come back down to about 20,000, find its ultimate bottom, and then consolidate range and start moving its way onward and upward from there, given reasonable economic conditions, assuming that the recession does not play out, inflation gets under control, and the Fed can back off. If not, so what is a pivot? So a pivot is when the Fed reverses and starts lowering interest rates and starts either stopping quantitative easing or quantitative tightening and begins a quantitative easing cycle. That's a pivot. The Fed hasn't even stopped anything, much less pivoted, and the markets interpreted what the Fed said and did as a pivot and have rallied. This is the Dow to the 200-day moving average, where it has rejected before. So this is a critical time for the Dow. If it can get above that 200-day moving average, we could see continuation, which obviously would be good for crypto. NASDAQ is not quite there. S&P is not quite there. So we're just going to have to wait and see over the next couple of days whether price can get above that 200-day moving average, or if it rejects like it did back in April this year and then continues downward and retests this low, or maybe puts in a new lower low. And it seems like the market analysis, the analysts, the investment funds, and the investment banks are all split whether we're going to retest lows or not in the markets. About half the participants think we will, half the participants think we won't. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Still a lot of short squeezing going on. Nice bear market rallies here. But again, we've seen this movie before in previous bear markets, especially going back to 2009, the last major bear market that we had. There were some very, very nice, very sharp rallies as the market moved down. And if you go back to 2001, the dot-com bubble and the NASDAQ, big rallies all the way down. So not out of the woods till you're out of the woods. And really the biggest thing are the economic risks out there from a global macroeconomic standpoint. There's troubles in China. We still have the wars. We've got inflation. Even though it came down a little bit, it's still high. Some economists think that that is temporary and that inflation is going to rebound and potentially go higher. Some people are projecting that oil is going to continue to go higher and get back into the $110, $120 level, which will bring gas prices back up. So as we get into the fall and the winter and energy becomes an issue, we will not know ultimately what those prices are going to do. But commodities are rebounding a little bit, and that is a good indication of where things could potentially be going. The bond market yields are still down. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there, a lot of conflicting evidence and sentiment out there in the market to keep everybody confused. So we'll just have to see if these markets can reclaim these moving averages and continue on with this rally. So these are the things that I am looking at, and I'll see you on the next video.